Okay, hello everybody. This video is going to go over what we learned in class on Monday, January 10th. We looked at women and their involvement in Reconstruction, and we framed it around the 15th Amendment. So, just first, to make sure we all understand it, you might want to pause and read it. This is not the entire amendment, this is just an excerpt. And we discussed the importance of putting this language into the Constitution. Many argue that the 14th Amendment essentially did grant black men the right to vote because it established citizenship. However, this was an important solidification of voting rights for black men. And the reason why I wanted to frame our lecture around that is because this actually has major implications for the women's suffrage movement, and it leads to their split. So, in general, as far as women's suffrage activism during the Civil War was concerned, it was rather slow for obvious reasons. There was a successful campaign led by Elizabeth Cady Stanton in what was called the Loyal League to ratify the 13th Amendment. After that, we ended up seeing a merging of an anti-slavery society and a suffrage association that led to the creation of the American Equal Rights Association. And that led to sort of a split within that movement. Interesting, because it was literally a merger of two different activist organizations that end up splitting in their opinion on something else. And that is whether or not the 15th Amendment was good for the women's suffrage movement. So what we see is that the National Women's Suffrage Association, aka NAWSA, ends up being conflicted about the 15th Amendment because they thought that that derailed the progress of women getting the right to vote. And further, there was some racism within this wing who argued that black women should not have gotten the vote prior to, or black men rather, should not have gotten the vote prior to white women. Moving forward, you have the formation of ASA, or the American Women's Suffrage Association, and they believed that the 15th Amendment was an important step towards progress. And they thought that ultimately they would still be able to successfully campaign for women to receive the right to vote. Some women ended up arguing that their right to vote was guaranteed already by the 14th Amendment because the 14th Amendment established birthright citizenship, and they comprised what was called the New Departure movement, or sort of the departure from this move to have a new amendment. They argued it wasn't necessary. There already was this amendment. Now, in 1875, the Supreme Court actually ruled in the case of Minor versus Happersett. We read an excerpt of this in class today, that women do not have the right to vote. And that's interesting because that is in the Reconstruction era. Okay, you probably looked at these photos here and their descriptions. I think this photo is fun to share because we see that they're all men and then a female passerby watching. In terms of women in society, there are some broad trends we can consider with regard to perspectives like race, geography, political ideology. I'm going to really speak broadly about this in this slide. Just a quick term, it's not mentioned in the book, but it's a really interesting one. Something called femme couvert. That was generally a term, forgive the meowing in the background, my cat's hungry. That's a term that generally refers to a married woman who does not have any property or any other sort of rights, like the right to enter into a contract, because she is married, and so therefore her husband has all those rights. Most women did fall under that femme couvert status. They sort of are like femme couvert even when they are younger and unmarried, if they are under the protection of their father. And divorce was quite uncommon, and femme sole, or a single woman, did have some property rights. So women who were widowed sometimes would inherit their late husband's property, and even though the expectation often was for them to remarry, especially if they were young, that was one opportunity for them to actually regain some sort of social status. In any event, as far as different sort of social organizations, this was something that was quite common among women regardless of their perspective. Southern white women oftentimes would actually romanticize the Confederate South and contribute to something called the lost cause narrative, that the Confederacy's loss was unjustified. Further, many of them would join what were called memorial associations, and essentially they would honor the memory of their deceased fathers, husbands, brothers who died during the Civil War. Black women, as far as their as far as the white expectation for them was, still were typically relegated to some sort of domestic work. This is an image from a very famous film, Gone with the Wind. I want to show you this scene, forgive me. I want to show you this scene later in class, and this scene will make much more sense. But I also show this picture because this is a great example of the lost cause narrative. And also, Black women participated in many organizations, also memorial societies. So they would also host things called decoration days. This was common among women from various perspectives. Decoration days were often days to, again, honor the memory of folks who lost their lives. And of course, this was shortly after the Civil War. So you see this picture here. I don't know the date of this, but it is an older photo of a decoration day. Okay, so just to bring things to a close here, Delilah's ready to move on. It's worth considering how this further helps us address the essential question that you're going to address in your document-based question on Thursday. So if this video is helpful to you, maybe you want to pause and somewhere in your plan write down how you could use this evidence to build your argument. Thank you so much. Sorry about the cat noise, and I hope this video helped. Goodbye.